No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you've come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you, the God in you. Whether you're black or white or gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you.
Good morning, Claremont Center for Spiritual Living. How are you this morning? Alive and well. Isn't that a good choice? Yes. Thank you for choosing to be here today. I'm Reverend Tracy and delighted to welcome you to our community of love and support and caring. And that includes those of you that may not be in the room but may be watching us live stream. Everybody wave. Because we know that in spirit there is no time or space or distance, and that togetherness comes from consciousness. And since we come here to remember the consciousness that we are, then the love is just a given. So thank you all for coming. I'm so glad to see all of you. And thank you all for those of you that are here for keeping your masks up and over your nose so that there's no accidental cooties moving around the room. I'm staying far away. I promise not to sing out loud. And that's how we keep each other safe. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. All right. So this morning, our practitioner of the day is the lovely Miss Diane Clemens. Diane will open our service with a prayer and a reading to get us started. And as you can see, our music corner this morning is dark. We have a little music over there on CDs. So our music team is now also our AV team. So hi, Sean. Hi. What's that guy's name? Oh, yeah, Ed. Yeah, that's it. Hi, guys. Thank you for all that you do to make this possible for those of us here and those of us at home. So let's get started by getting centered, shall we? I'm going to invite you to take a breath and close your eyes and let the sound of the bowl take you within. Take you within to that space of the heart where life is, where love is, where that divine spark is ignited. Simply breathing in that sense of connection and oneness.
As we settle into the quietness of this moment, let's take a nice deep breath, breathing in all the positive energies of the universe, expelling anything that we need to let go of today. Let us give thanks for the privilege of attending our service today, for our right to gather, for our right to worship, for all the freedoms that we have. And right now, let's just feel God. Feel the God presence in this room. Feel the peace. Feel the camaraderie. We are grateful, and we give grateful thanks as we realize that God is all there is. God is perfection. God is in us, as us, expressing through us. The perfection of God is us, expressing through us. Remember, there is no spot where God is not. As you feel this presence around you, know that you are as God is, for you are God expressing. Right here and right now, you are a perfect divine being. You are perfect, whole, and complete right now. You are an individualized expression of this one. And knowing this, I bless our congregation. I bless our ministers. I bless our associate minister. I bless our musicians. I bless our technicians, sound technicians, who set up the lights and the sound and the Zoom and all those complicated things that make our service run so smoothly. I bless Claremont Center for Spiritual Living, and I am affirming that our center is growing and prosperous. It is also an expression of the One. I am grateful that our center is a safe place where all are welcome. I am grateful that our center is a source of inspiration, a healing center. And then I'm very, very grateful that we continue to grow and to expand and to evolve into a higher expression of the divine. And knowing all things are true, I know as I have spoken this word, it is so, and so it is. Our reading today is Ernest Holmes. And for today, he talks about the impersonal law of personal good. It's interesting to note that while Jesus said that all power was given to him in heaven and on earth, at another time he said that he himself could do nothing. Now this sounds like a contradiction until we understand the subtlety of the meaning. Jesus realized that there is but one power and one presence, and he knew that we all live in this presence and by this power. He also knew that when he surrendered himself to the presence, that is, when he thought the thoughts of God after him, then the power would automatically respond to him. Therefore, in surrendering himself to the presence of good, he commanded the law of good. This is fundamental to our whole concept of what we believe and the way we use it. For we use the law of good, which of itself is entirely impersonal and independent of us, like all the other laws of nature. Responding to the presence of love, we use the law of good. This is what meditation, affirmation, and prayer mean. I am now depending on the power that is greater than I am and upon the law of good that is available right here and now. I identify my life with the presence and the power and the love of God. I recognize the divine presence within and around me and in all people. If there is anything in me that denies the presence of this power, I loose it and let it go. I surrender myself to the complete conviction that everything necessary to my well-being, for my physical, mental, and spiritual self-expression, is now operating in, through, and around me. I know that everything I do will prosper. I know that the one life, which is God, is my life now, and therefore I accept this gift of life and love for myself and for all people. That's Ernest Holmes. Thank you.
Okay, so let's light our candle for our theme this month, which is, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We're talking about goodness. And it's oh my goodness. Oh, for the surprise factor, which brings us back to the present moment. My, because how I use spiritual power is unique to me. Like light shining through a prism, every facet reflects a slightly different color at a different angle. And so, although we all use the same consciousness, the same energy of life, it is unique to each of us. Therefore, the good that we experience is ours and ours alone and takes nothing from anyone else. And goodness, because as Emma Curtis Hopkins says, my good is my God. In other words, all that is in life as life is what we call God, that energy, that essence, that expression. And so the goodness of life is ours to have when we stay in the present moment. And this is what we teach in Science of Mind. So today, the title is Wonders Never Cease. And I got to this because I've been a bit bogged down by appearances lately. I'm sure I'm not the only one. It's not often that the news cycle gets to me or that I begin to feel a sense of hopelessness or sort of flailing about in response to what's going on in the world. But it does happen every now and then. It usually happens when I'm stressed in my personal life or when I'm tired or when I'm not paying attention. So usually that stress is the cosmic energy waving at me, pay attention, wake up, hello, are you still in there? And I usually respond, first of all, with flailing about, as most of us do. I can always tell when I'm in that state because I say bad words more often. It's not my most ministerial side, but there you have it. And then once I notice that, then I go back to using my spiritual practice, which is hopefully where we all end up, which is a little more meditation time, a little more prayer treatment, calling my minister friends, calling my practitioner, recentering in the greater truth. And Ernest Holmes, is the founder of Science of Mind, is always reminding us that we're to look for the truth beyond appearances, which means we're not supposed to surrender to or be seduced by the idea that life is broken and flawed and we're stuck in it. Instead, we're to recognize that this process of living, as messy as it may appear, is part of a transformational evolution that is always happening. Always happening. When you look back on your own life, you've had this generally upward trajectory where things get better, you grow stronger, you get more clear. However, when you look at the detail of that trajectory, you'll see that the line really goes up and down and up and down and up and way down and then back up again. Because although the general direction is one of growth and expansion, the individual experiences can look a lot like dips in the road or, let's face it, being buried alive, right? So we're talking about this transformative process which goes through stages and yet is always carrying us upward, always carrying us forward. In any circumstance, any situation, there is growth and good to be found. And so this idea that we live in a land of wonders requires that we see rightly. And the best way to see rightly is to use our curiosity rather than our judgment. Yes? It's very different to say, gee, I wonder what's going on here, as opposed to, oh my gosh, here we go again. There's a difference, right? We sometimes don't realize the assumptions we make about how we are interpreting the world unless we consciously choose to move into a place of curiosity and wonder. It takes a little bit of conscious effort to break patterns of thought, right? Not to fall into, now what's wrong? Or, why can't things just work? Why can't people just be nice? Why can't anybody see the world the way I do? Because obviously I'm right and you guys are all messed up. Yeah, some people think of it that way. Instead, we can ask, we can tell ourselves, I wonder what's happening here. And then to ask again, I wonder what else could be happening here. And I wonder what else could be happening here. So when you look at a situation and you make a snap judgment about what's going on, you're going to do yourself a favor and change your own experience of life if you're willing to consider that something else may be going on other than what you just assumed. I went to visit my grandmother towards her last days. She was in assisted living, and my grandmother was a lifelong smoker because she grew up in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, and that's just what people did. And in the facility, there was no smoking in the building. Well, that's not going to work, okay, for a lifelong smoker, that you just don't just not do that. So what they had were nicotine patches. And then she also had a couple friends on the nursing staff that would sneak her out the back door for an actual cigarette every now and then with them, which was fine. When you're 80, whatever, you can do what you want. But I went to visit her with my brothers one time, and she lashed out at me in a way that was very personal and hurtful. And you have to understand, my mother was an only child, aka princess. I was the firstborn grandchild and a girl, and I was the only grandchild for the first 4.5 years, aka Princess 2. Although she may scold me and offer me advice that I really wasn't ever looking for, she was never mean. Never. So this was very much out of character. I left the room in tears. My first thought was, what did I do? Because, I was in my 20s and it was always all my fault. So what did I do? And then it was, what are they doing to her in this place? Somebody must be doing something to her in this place. And when I went back to the room, had to get my brothers, we all came in the same car. When I went back in, I noticed that her nicotine patch was off her arm and stuck to her clothes. And I realized that she was going through withdrawal, was highly agitated, could not control what came out of her mouth even if she wanted to, and it had nothing to do with me at all. So to ask what else could be happening is to remind ourselves that there are possibilities, that there is more going on than what we see on the surface. And even though we know that and we say it all the time and we're very happy to remind each other, especially, somebody giving us a hard time, that this is the case, you don't know everything. The truth is we don't know everything. And so moving in a way that asks a question or allows for other possibilities brings us to a different emotional state. So my hurt and anger disappeared. Just disappeared. It was very real at the time, but it wasn't the truth. It was based on an assumption. So this asking of questions can be very powerful, and I want to give you an example of this. The Toyota Motor Corporation is built on the question, why? So Sakichi Toyoda, the founder of the industry, he developed this technique called the 5 whys. And so when there would be a problem, they would ask the question, why did this happen? And they would come up with an answer. And then they would say, well, why does that happen? And they would do that 5 times to get to the root of the problem. Well, they also use the 5 whys for innovation. So if we're going to add something to the inside of the car, why do we want to put that? Why do we want to add a cup holder? And why is that important? Well, our customers want it. Well, why do they want it? Because it creates comfort. Well, why do they want to be comfortable? They would ask the 5 whys, which leads to greater innovation, greater creativity, and a greater energy of possibility. The assumption is there's always more to look at and to choose from. Well, that's a much happier way to live than to decide up front that everybody's out to get you and you're just going to have to fight like hell to have a good life. Right? Which is why you're all here, right? Yes, good. All right. So, Socrates is, and then he said, Socrates said that wonder is the beginning of wisdom. And I really like that, because when I first think of the word wisdom, I think, well, you have to be old. Wise means you've had a lot of experiences, most of them negative, and you've had to figure stuff out, and you're probably tired, but you're wise. And, there's a whole scenario that goes with that. But if you start with wonder, wonder is about kids, right? Wonder is what happens to a kid's face when they see something new, or you offer them a present, or you surprise them. Wonder is the beginning of wisdom, because what is wisdom but a greater understanding, right? It's understanding how things work or where they come from or why they might be the way they are, which means we have choices. And so asking questions or wondering about something opens us up to this expectation of discovery. And Holmes says that we're to live our life with an expectation of good. Like, we don't wait for things. We expect good to show up. We may not see it just yet, but that doesn't matter because the expectation is already there. And wonder is an expectation of discovery. And discovery has a connotation of something that's going to lead to something more, something better, something greater. Now, that's not to say discoveries don't get misused all the time, but our inherent nature is to use what we discover for good. Because our inherent nature is to live successfully in community and relationship. That's who we are as human beings. So when kids ask questions, primarily why, when kids ask questions, they're looking at life from the standpoint that they don't know everything yet and they want to know. So they open themselves up to what's possible. You know, the whole make-believe and the pretending and the imagination and the whole scenarios that they can create with a cardboard box are just mind-boggling to adults because we forget that the cardboard box makes a really good fort or a really good dollhouse or a really good place to hide the cat. I mean, there's just possibilities all over the place, and we sometimes forget. So when I see kids asking questions and using their imaginations and being excited about something, what I realize is that they're very tapped into what is the essential power of life, the essential creative power of life. It says, something is possible here. Let's see what it is. Let's notice. Let's ask questions. Let's bother our parents and grandparents to death until they tell us. How many times have you been somewhere and you've heard, Mommy, 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 because Mommy's talking and Mommy's not ready to respond yet, but that doesn't stop the question from happening, now does it? So the sense of, oh my goodness, oh, look at that. Wow, that just startled me. Whoa, this is something exciting. This is beautiful. Whatever it is that catches our attention in the moment puts us right back in our power. Because the only power we have is right now what we're choosing to do, what we're choosing to think, how we're choosing to respond to life, what direction we're choosing now. And so this curiosity, this drive to know, this willingness to explore is really our hearts being open rather than our minds being stuck. I'm sure I'm not the only one that can think myself into a death spiral. Like at 3 a.m, right? You wake up and some thought occurs to you. And then, you're in it for like the next hour, and there's no, I'm just going to go to sleep. I'm just going to think about the ocean, except I go right back into the death spiral of my thinking. The mind is a tool. Our logic and our clarity of thought and our language that we use, those are all tools. But the heart, the feeling center of who we are, is the seat of our energy. It's the seat of our creative power. And so we want those two things to work in conjunction with each other, but we don't want to be driven by the mind's idea of what's possible because we tend to think in small, narrow lanes, right? Based on our experiences, based on our history, based on our culture. But the heart knows no limits. So when I'm tapped into that heart space, then I am creative. Then I'm living from a place of personal power. Then I am standing and understanding my place in the world, my place as life. I'm tapping into my spiritual nature as I look at the world. And that's really what this dance is, right? Between the human and the divine. It's remembering, as Diane was reading, that there is a power greater than we are, and yet we are a part of it. Ernest Holmes talks about us partaking of the nature of God. So we're not saying, I am God. Some of you might, but mostly you don't. But we partake of the nature of, which means we are participating in the same characteristics. So we are creative and we are loving. And there is a beauty of us, and there is a joy in our hearts. And these are all things, the nature of life itself is us. So it's not me and God. It is me expressing the life that God is. Me refracting that one light. Me being that spirit in form, just as you are that spirit in form. We don't just have to react to what we see out there, you know? We have to remember that we bring a sense of beauty and joy and peace and love with us because that's our nature. It makes us less dependent on the world to be orderly, which, if you've noticed, doesn't work. I mean, we can create order in our world, certainly. But if we wait for everything out there to get better or to be right or to look like love, we're going to be waiting a long time. That's not ours to do. Ours to do is the world that we can reach from where we are, the words that we speak, living the ideas and acting on the ones that we have so that we might bring our gifts and creations into being. Houdini says, "Look at this life, all mystery and magic." But you see, the action word in that sentence is look. We have to look. That's our spiritual practice. If we're going to see rightly, if we're going to understand our life in the greater context, if we're going to have the energy to do what is to be done in our own relationships with our own creative works, then we need to look from a place of wonder and mystery and magic and creativity and love and curiosity in order to see that wonder in the world. I came across a great line in a mystery novel by Jacqueline Winstar. She says, "Truth walks towards us on the path of our questions." I love that. Truth walks towards us on the path of our questions. Where in your life have you said or had somebody say to you, "You're asking the wrong question. Ask a different question"? You know, we learn in foundations class in Science of Mind that why me? Why is this happening to me? Is not the powerful question that's going to lead us to a better life, right? Because it comes from victim consciousness. We think things are happening to us. We can change the question and open up to new possibilities. What else could I be doing in this situation? How might this relationship be healed? How might what might I find that will bring me more financial abundance? I can change the question and open up new vistas. Because I'm responsible for how I see the world. So, you know the story of everybody trying to describe, the blind men trying to describe the elephant, right? And they're touching, so somebody's got the tail and somebody's got the leg and somebody's got the trunk. And as they say out loud what their descriptions are, it sounds like they're on 17 different planets, right? It's long, it moves, it's got a muscle in it. Oh, no, it's hard, it doesn't move at all. You know, he's got the leg. I can hardly touch the tail. It keeps, I don't know it's a tail. I just know it keeps whipping around and hitting me in the face. It's perception, it's perspective, it's where you're standing. So our job is to make sure that we are standing and looking out at the world from our spiritual truth. Beyond the appearances of what's out there, I can close my eyes and feel and see and know joy or beauty or peace. And it reminds me that that's always there, that I am always in the midst of wonders and mystery and magic. And just because I don't sense it with my 5 senses does not mean it's not real. It just means I don't have the right glasses on. And those of you who have ever looked for your glasses know that makes a difference which glasses you have on. I prefer the 24-hour contacts. That works really well for me. But our spiritual practice is like 24-hour contacts, right? It is adjusting our vision so that we're seeing in the frequency of the most beautiful, which gives us the energy to be the most loving, which creates the most healing in our circle of influence. And remember, your circle of influence touches everybody else's circle of influence, which touches theirs. We have this giant ripple effect, and I want to be in the center of love moving out into the world, rather than be the victim of the world crashing in on me. And I'm pretty sure you want that too. So in order to see the wonders in this crazy, beautiful, chaotic, messy world that we live in as human beings, we first have to remember that, as Holmes says, we believe in the eternal goodness of all. In other words, life is for us. If God is all there is, and that God is the very essence and energy of life, then life will always give more life. Even if it looks messy, even if it looks like the caterpillar melted away, it's still going to turn into the butterfly. Even if we're in one of those valleys on our generally upward trajectory, we are still living the life that is for us. And there is good and growth everywhere, provided that's what we're looking with and what we're looking for. And then the second thing, as you remember that the word wonderful is a synonym for good, right? We'd consciously choose wonder as our viewpoint, as our perspective, where we're standing as we look at the world. It is a choice, right? We choose how we look at the world, how we see ourselves. We want to look at life and unleash that energy of that expectation of discovery, that expectation of good. Not walk into a situation and see the 50 million things that could go wrong. Don't be a Debbie Downer. Instead, to walk into any situation and look for what's working, who's loving, where the joy is, what the possibilities are. And if I don't know what the possibilities are, then to ask myself the question, I wonder what the possibilities are here for growth, for love, for healing, for joy. I wonder where my good will come from today. I wonder how abundance will show up at work this week. Ask yourself the question. Unleash the power of wonder in your own life, showing the universe that your heart is open to what's possible. And your mind is going to take a back seat for a while and not tell you how everything is supposed to be or how it is or how it should be, because that doesn't serve. We want that divine spark of creation that's within us to have an outlet, and we are that channel. So remember that if you're coming from it, if you're coming from the perspective of magic and mystery and wonder and possibility, you don't have to look for it in the world. If you're coming from it, that's what you're going to see. It's what you're going to find. Unceasing wonder creates a life of joy. Because instead of getting locked into what we don't like or don't want, or our judgment about other people or politics or policies, instead we are standing always with an opening before us of what's possible. That wonder leading to wisdom, which leads to understanding, which brings us a sense of peace. Oh my goodness, how fabulous is that? Namaste. So in case you didn't see it in the e-blast, the quote for today's talk is from Robert Holden, and he said, "Practice wonder today. Be present, begin again, know nothing, and allow everything to surprise you, inspire you, excite you, entertain you, teach you. Be fully open to life today and let yourself live wonderfully with wonder." So I invite you now to take a moment, close your eyes, and let's breathe in this sense of wonderfulness. the sense of fullness that comes from tapping into the heart space that knows a greater truth, that comes from being together in connection and consciousness in our spiritual community with our spiritual family and friends. This place of fullness that is spirit in and as each of us. For this spiritual life is one of great joy and beauty. It is life unfolding, forever expanding and transforming and evolving. It is a divine intelligence, a consciousness of wisdom and deep peace, a perfection of unfoldment. And just as I can close my eyes so that I do not see the clutter in a messy room and have a moment of respite, so too at any time I can take a breath, close my eyes, turn my gaze inward to this place of peace, this place of the heart, this place of knowing that is beyond the world. For this is truly the greater truth of life, the essence of all things. And from this place of spiritual knowing, from this place of peace, I move and breathe and speak and act differently in the world. I bring my peace, my joy, my sense of beauty to everything that I touch. And I see it in everything that I see. And so I bless every connection I have with another person, with another sentient being, whether it's a goldfish or a cat or a dog or maybe even that beautiful plant I've nurtured from a seed or a child. That life is, and I am that. And the possibilities are infinite. The potential for becoming is expansive and endless. And it is good and very good. And where it is not good, I simply once again remind myself that healing happens, that love always wins, that there is a way forward. And I simply make myself the channel for that to come through me, as me. And I encourage it from those I meet. For I know that behind every pair of eyes, behind every mask, there is a heart that beats love, that cries out for love, that offers love, that brings healing. And I will be that place of healing. I claim that energy as my own. I claim my spiritual sight is working at full force, allowing me to see the beauty and the joy, the wholeness and the health, the peace and the love in everyone I meet. And so I find reasons to be amazed and delighted and energized, for this energy of life is infinite, and I am grateful, so grateful for the blessings, for the good, for the shared joy, for the connection, for the growth that happens between us, within us, around us. And I affirm that life is good and getting better all the time. And that where there is illness, there is healing happening. And where there is fear, love is its embrace. And where there is a sense of anger or lack or mistrust, that the peace of God is present there also. So simply letting this light of life that I am shine into the world. I let this go and let God unfold, knowing it is good, knowing it is perfect, knowing it is true. And so it is. So, my friends, we have an affirmation. Let's say that together. I'm going to read each sentence and ask you to repeat it after me so that our friends at home can say it along with us. Today I see with spiritual insight. Now I affirm the goodness, beauty, and abundance of life. And so it is. All right. I want to take a moment as we get ready to say our prosperity affirmation, and thank you all once again for your end-of-year donations. Your year-long contributions keep our community healthy and strong, and your ability and willingness and generosity at the end of the year allows us to catch up if we need to catch up and be ready for the upcoming year. And truly, I just want you to know how much I appreciate how everyone shows up in the best of their ability to keep our community together and thriving and prosperous. We are proving the principle to ourselves all the time. So thank you all for that. For today, your contributions can be placed in the baskets at the back of the room. Those of you online, there's a donate button either in our mailer or on our website that allows you to donate. And you can also set up an automatic monthly donation on PayPal if you would like. That's something that can be done. Another way to contribute, if you want, some of you may have mandatory withdrawals from retirement accounts. You know, you can designate those to come directly to the center. So no fuss, no muss. It's a contribution to us. You don't get any penalties for not withdrawing. So everybody's happy. And that abundance it's another way to share. One other way to share is to include us in your estate planning. You leave part of your legacy here with Science of Mind so that we continue to teach and do what we do in the world, and all of those things are good. So for today, your contribution, whether it's your treasure or your time or your talent, place your hand and your contribution or your thought of contribution over your heart and say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now, and so we are. Okay, a little bit of information and invitation. Anybody get a new TV for Christmas? Anybody want to give us their old TV? We're going to be starting classes again, and we're going to do them hybrid. So where we can safely meet in person, we will, but we will probably always have people joining us online. And so what makes that work best is if we have a big screen so that when we're Zooming with everybody, we can see the little Brady Bunch boxes and actually talk to the people and see the faces of those who are participating in class. So we're looking for a donation of a big screen television that we can use in our classroom, and then I'm sure we'll find other reasons to use it as well. So keep us in mind for that. I want to just put out there that our annual meeting will be the last Sunday in February. You will be getting a little postcard reminder. We'll have flyers out front. But this year, we'll be talking a lot about, we're 2 years into this pandemic, and how do we want to sustain our building? How do we want to move forward? What is our new vision for this community and who we are? We already know, because I've been telling you for 2 years, that we're not going back to old normal, if there ever was such a thing. So how do we want to move forward? Possibilities are endless. And we're going to want to hear from everyone. So keep that in mind. I believe the Sunday date is the 27th. But it is the last Sunday in February, and like I said, you will be getting reminders, so keep that in mind. Also, if you're interested in serving on our board, we have a couple of openings. There is an interview process and a requirement. You have to have taken a class and be a member and, all those things. But if you're interested in serving in that way, we would love to have you be part of this group that sort of steers the ship and facilitates the decision-making that we make as a community. So let me know, or talk to our board members, or talk to Betty. She's on our nominating committee, and we'll get you started with a few questions and answers. And if you've been on the board before and you're afraid to come back on, come talk to me, okay? Because it's probably different. I don't know. There's another new normal going on, and how we make decisions and all of that. So does anyone have any other invitations, announcements, questions? Okay. All right then. Let's make a circle and have a little music and rock ourselves right on out of here and into the world.
Take a look at the person next to you and say, God loves you and I love you too. Now feel the love in the sanctuary. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together, we come together, we come together.